Good to see you all here. I'm going to be talking today around sort of an open and positive mindset. Just a couple of things we need to go through before we get going. We would love you to contribute. If you have any questions or any kind of things that you might want to air, then by all means, you do have an option to post any comments. Just to let you know, this is a public platform, so whatever you actually post will be seen by other people. So if you're not really comfortable with that, then please don't post. But by all means, you can log into our website, or you can use our Facebook page if that's a better kind of option for you. So we're going to be talking today a little bit around some things that we all recognized, especially us as being staff. We have kind of lived experience that kind of affected us when we were not in particularly well. And one of those was actually starting to look after ourselves. And a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is around kind of our attitude changes and the way that we actually look at ourselves. So it'd be really, really good if we can get some feedback from you guys. It'd be really nice if you've had some experiences and you've done something that's changed and made you feel a bit better. Be really good for us to kind of capture that information as well.
Especially about feeling more optimistic, feeling more positive, feeling more open. And we're going to put that question out to you straight away. So what does being open and having a positive mindset mean to you guys? Just let us know in the comments.
So just before we get going, we do have half an hour today. So those of you that don't know us, I'm Neil. I'm a wellbeing coach here at Isseropia. And my colleague today is another Neil. Those of you that know us will probably know us as Little Neil and Big Neil, but we're both Neils, so there's not an issue there. So I just want to try and kick this off a little bit, Neil. When I was not in a particularly good place myself, somebody said to me about having an open and a positive mindset. And I just immediately thought that all that really meant to me was just to put a smile on your face, dust things off. And as long as you're happy-go-lucky from an external point of view, that would be enough. Clearly, that's not, is it?
No, it's not about that, is it?
No.
There's a lot more to it. And it's incredibly difficult to do that when you're feeling poorly, when you're feeling low, when you're feeling depressed. It's actually impossible to do that. And it's not just about putting a smile on your face. It's not just about looking cheerful all the time, is it? You know, that's incredibly difficult to do it. But it's more about, you know, our overall perspective on life and tendency to focus on the good things in life. There's always something to, you know, feel optimistic about or feel grateful for, no matter how low we're feeling. So it's finding those things. And I guess it's about shifting our perspective, shifting our focus, if we can, to those things that are a little bit more positive in our lives. You know what I mean? But I totally agree with you. It's not about just smiling all the time, being cheerful all the time. You know, it's not about that. It's just completely unrealistic to say that to people who struggle to do that and feel down and low, you know? Completely unrealistic.
Absolutely. And you know, one thing that we'll talk about a little bit later is kind of where we can find ourselves burning a lot of energy. You know, I found by creating a more open and more positive perspective in life, then all the energy I was burning on the negatives, I was starting to actually use that in the positives, and it kind of changed my mind. And I kind of reframed things in my own head. And it's a really important subject, isn't it? Because one thing's for sure, you know, when you, like you said, when you're really poorly, it's really difficult to start looking at some other things, a bigger aspect. And then it's really about some bits and pieces, which we're going to go and talk about in a minute.
But you made a good point. And really, I think you're talking about forming habits, aren't you?
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, it is difficult to do to begin with. So the more you start doing things which are more positive, you start to form habits. This is what we're trying to do, really, is form those more healthier, positive habits. And after a while, it becomes easier. But as Neil said, later on in this video, we're going to be talking about some techniques to kind of cultivate that positive mindset.
Yeah, so Neil and I were having a bit of a discussion after, so we're just going to pop another kind of thing up on the ticker tape at the bottom, you'll see that. And we're going to start talking around a couple of these things. These are just a couple of things. There's a lot more aspects, isn't there, Neil?
Oh yeah.
But we've chosen a few of these, and then we'll kind of talk through them. So
before we go into them, though, I really think that, you know, developing a positive thinking really is more about approaching life's challenges with a more positive outlook. We don't need a positive and open mindset when we're already positive and things are going well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it's when we face those challenges in life that we need to know that there are some more positive, optimistic, whatever you want to call it, ways of approaching them and looking at things. But it's also not about avoiding and ignoring the kind of bad things that crop up, or the hard things, the challenging things that come up. So it's kind of trying to, in those challenging situations, is see other people in a better light, you know, positive way. It's incorporating both the positive aspects of our life and the negative aspects into our life in one. Do you know what I mean by that? It's like, that's the whole of us, you know. But as I said at the beginning, it's very unrealistic just to focus on all the positive stuff, you know, be positive and hot and smiley and cheerful and happy all the time. It just doesn't happen. And it's okay. It's okay to have those bad days. It's okay to feel pessimistic. It's okay to feel down sometimes. And it's about incorporating it all as a whole.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's some characteristics, isn't there, of being more positive and open.
Yes.
So should we talk about that?
Let's talk about that. I mean, the first one that we'll choose on there is optimism.
Yeah, definitely. Optimism. You know, this is about willingness to make an effort and take chances instead of just assuming that your efforts aren't going to pay off, having that defeatist kind of attitude.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what optimism is, having the willingness to keep trying and take chances, take those risks in challenging situations.
Absolutely. And that really leads us to the next one, which is acceptance. So this is really acknowledging that things, you know, don't always turn out how they're supposed to turn out or how you want them to turn out, but kind of learning from those things. And, you know, it's acceptable to make mistakes as long as we can actually look at it from an optimistic point of view, like going back to your bit, and take some learnings from it. And if we need to change that, then that's really just accepting that and moving on.
Yeah, absolutely. What about resilience then? Resilience is definitely a trait of being positive, and this is all about how we bounce back after kind of a challenge or failure, if you like, instead of just giving up, you know. So resilience is incredibly important as well. Just have a bit of these things, you know.
And then, I was going to talk about gratitude. So this obviously actively continuing appreciating the good things in your life. But we'll talk about that when we go to some solutions. Well, not so much solutions, but some things you guys might want to try. And gratitude is a really important part of it. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. What about mindfulness then? Being more mindful about what's going on around us. And it's about kind of really dedicating the mind to awareness, conscious awareness, to enhance our focus. And if we're being more mindful, we can then start to be aware of the more positive things around us and focus on those positive things going on in our life.
And then lastly on the list that we talked about is integrity, the trait of being honorable, being righteous, you know, and straightforward instead of sometimes being self-serving. That's really in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah. Self-serving can kind of mean like all your focus is on that bad thing, that negative thing, and then you're just entrenched and just stuck in your own mind.
Which links back to what we started with, wasn't it? You know, burning your energy probably in the wrong areas.
Absolutely, Neil.
And then you become kind of what we said, self-serving. So go on, carry on.
No, I think really we're going to talk about some techniques in 5 minutes or so about how we can adopt those traits or those characteristics into our lives. And this, we've only got half an hour, so it's going to be quite simple and basic techniques. But when you think about where do we start doing this, it needs to be basic, it needs to be simple. And in the end, after a few months, a few weeks of practicing this stuff, the simple stuff, the basic stuff can have a huge impact on us. But yeah, I think, we need to talk about, again, about developing the right thoughts. Or in anything negative or unpleasant in our lives either. But it is about incorporating both things into our lives. But I think above all, it's about increasing our control over our attitudes in the face of whatever comes our way. We can't always control our moods. We can't always control our thoughts that pop into our heads. But what we can do, we can choose how to handle them and manage them, right? We can choose how to react to those thoughts. We can choose how to react to those moods, and that's going to go a long way to quicken the stage you're in those moods or in those thoughts. It's can help lessen the intensity of those thoughts.
Absolutely,
all those moods.
I completely agree.
So this is what it's about.
You can get stuck, can't you? Yeah.
It's about our control, isn't it? Our control.
Absolutely.
And this is where the mindfulness stuff comes in, and the resilience. It's about our control and management of those thoughts,
and those situations, because we've got to face life is life sometimes, Neil, and you are going to have those low moments, like you said. And the way that I kind of remembered it for myself is how you kind of connect with that thought, so that you don't sit with that thought too long, especially if it's a negative one. You need to start using a little bit of optimism in all the things that we've talked about. And then after a period of time, it kind of, you become far more resilient on those little blows that you get. You don't kind of sit in that place for quite a long period of time. You're able to manage yourself, manage your thought processes, and then kind of effectively, for me, it was, Neil, taking some actions to move myself away from it.
And we're going to talk about that in 5 minutes or so, aren't we? About the actions of what we can do. But yeah, I totally agree. And if you can incorporate, that into distraction techniques. So your distraction techniques are optimistic and healthy and positive. Like, I don't know, focusing on your hobbies, your interests, or whatever. That's just going to quicken up that stage of that bad mood, that negative thought even quicker, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I think building a positive framework in your thoughts, as we said, it's not just about being bubbly and annoyingly cheerful, like you see quite a few people around, but it's about making an investment in yourself and in your future. As we said, it's okay to think pessimistically at time, and allow you to become more accepting, to be able to let go. It's going to be able to help you create stability in your life. It's going to help you adopt new, healthier habits, and also to it's going to help you reach some sort of meaning and purpose in your life. So it's critically important to start understanding in any situation can manage thoughts and moods, which is going to benefit us in the long term. And if you're doing that, it's going to become easier. You're going to start seeing a really beneficial payoff to your mental well-being, I think.
And it's really interesting what Neil's talking about there, and you can see that within kind of the guys that we work with. Quite often we come, it's kind of common nature now. There may be something that happens, but all of us, every individual, looks at it from an optimistic point of view, gives a bit of gratitude, all those kind of things. And very much, I think, I don't know if you would agree, that we've become a little bit more kind of solution focused on, okay, this has gone wrong. I have these thoughts, I have these feelings, but let's look at another aspect of it. And we quite often do that, don't we?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we've got to acknowledge the fact as well, to begin with, it's going to be really hard and it's going to feel really like awkward and uncomfortable. Yeah. But, you know, perseverance, bit of self-discipline, self-motivation. You know, we're not gonna lie to you guys, it's hard work. And it takes a bit of time, but it will start paying off eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really going to go into some things of, you know, how can we start to probably, I don't like saying it, Neil, but it's almost reframing our brain. That's the way I kind of look at it myself. So there was a couple of things that, you know, I did very kind of early on. And it was things like, did you ever do a journal, Neil?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, writing things down, journaling. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, journaling is particularly difficult to start with because when I journaled initially, I kind of journaled with the things that went wrong during, you know, this experience. Then after a period of time with a little bit of practice, I started to look at things a little bit differently. So my journaling then started to kind of change and develop with me. So I kind of started to recognize who do I like to be around, who brings me joy and stuff like that. And, you know, when I had those experiences, I'd write them down, you know, and it would be things like that that really did help me. So from a journal point of view, did you find that difficult initially?
Well, there's a bit of a sort of technique to it, isn't it? I mean, when I started off, it just ended up in lists and just single words. And it kind of, reflecting back on it, didn't really mean much. So you've got to kind of make your journaling meaningful, haven't you? And you've got to kind of relate it to real life situations, what's happened within your day, right? So let's talk about one thing that you can do. And as I said at the beginning, this is basic stuff. It might seem basic, but the payoff will be, you know, hopefully big.
Huge.
You know,
yes,
so let's just talk about one of the journaling techniques around strength exploration, and, you know, identifying and writing down as many strengths as possible can actually turn out to be quite what's the word, quite an exciting thing. So you get a bit of a, when you really focus on your strengths, you get a bit of a rush of like, actually, you know, I am these things. But you've got to kind of notice it and you've got to kind of identify it. So really engage with writing as many strengths of you've got down on a piece of paper. And if you kind of get stuck for these words, you can always look for other strength lists and kind of compare a little bit and think, there's loads of stuff on the internet, but like, yeah, I'm actually compassionate. I actually, you know, showed my compassion today with my neighbor, or with, I don't know, letting an old lady through a door or something, you know, or I had a chat. I'm actually really good at listening. My friend phoned up and I really listened to her very well. So it's about finding your biggest strengths. Maybe just, you know, 5, 6 of them, write them down. And once you've identified those strengths, try to kind of learn about those strengths specifically in different areas of your life. So perhaps in your relationships, or at work, or, you know, with you know, family, I suppose that's relationships, but all in different areas of your life, and how you apply those strengths to those situations. You could even go more specific and list the strengths that that you possess, which help you in your a certain relationship with a partner, or your children, or your parents. You know, perhaps you could describe a specific time where your strengths were able to help you in those relationships. Describe perhaps some ways how you could use those strengths in the future in relationships. Communication, big one with relationships, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It might be not about relationships, it might be at work, it might be practical things. might be that you're quite good at, I don't know, admin if you work in an office,
Yeah.
or it could be anything, any strengths, right? And just focusing on those strengths, okay, is going to make you feel a little bit more positive in that moment.
Yeah.
Right. And it might go after you stop doing it, but if you're able to do this, what, 2 or 3 times a week?
Yeah.
You know, maybe once a week.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk about some more journaling.
There's a couple of
and if
bits,
you can do
Neil,
one
that I
each
want
day
to
or
link
something.
with exactly
Go
what
on,
you
yeah.
just said. Not only is it helping you from the perspective of creating that open and positive mindset, things like you were just talking about there start to actually help you with your self-confidence,
Yeah,
with your self-esteem,
absolutely.
your self-belief. And this is what we often talk, don't we, about being mentally unstable at times in our lives. It's a whole big jigsaw puzzle. So when we're talking about one subject, it can have a massive impact on lots of other areas.
Absolutely. And we all know what self-esteem and confidence does and self-belief, when we start to increase it, our anxiety and low moods start to come down. You know what I mean? But it can be, this might give you a bit of sense of enthusiasm. It might be self-motivating to go on and take action somewhere else in your life. It can lead on to a lot of things.
Well, there's a massive gain at the end of any kind of experience and changes that we kind of make and we're capable of making ourselves. We often talk about things that we can burn energy on that are not in our control, but when we're talking about aspects that we do on these lives, they are most definitely, without doubt, within our control. A bit like you've spoken about, Neil. It's how we connect to a thought or a feeling is in our control. It's how we kind of manage that and move forward. We've been talking about positive journals. There's lots and lots of other ways where you can start to kind of go on the pathway, if you like. I certainly think that in a very short period of time, I'm not talking days, but I'm talking in a short period of time, my whole kind of outlook on where I was had changed quite massively by just kind of refocusing my energies, having a look at what some of the thoughts and the feelings that I was having and the reasons around those. And a lot of that was kind of down to me.
Yeah.
Is that making sense? I was connecting with things and I was making it, different. What it meant to me was completely kind of different.
Absolutely. I totally understand that. Yeah. So I think another kind of journaling, if you like, or list, writing things down is great because it reinforces stuff in our minds. It's like we're not just thinking about it, we're writing down, we can visualize it. It's just a lot more powerful. But gratitude lists, and I still do this today, or catch myself sometimes thinking about what I'm grateful for. Go through my morning routine, coffee, shower, whatever, and I'll kind of generally do it then. Not so much nowadays, but I used to do it good 2-3 times a week. Basically, cut a long story short, the researchers, scientists are working out that people that practice gratefulness are a lot more happy with their life.
Yeah.
So what you can do is just think about some of the things that you're grateful for, and really kind of truly, what's the word? Kind of engage in it. Focus on those things that you're grateful for. Try to take sort of like 10 minutes maybe of your day writing things down, or thinking about things. You could actually, use some kind of subheadings around gratefulness. Someone whose company that you enjoy and are grateful for, or a fun experience that you had that you're grateful for. A reason to be excited for, or an unexpected good thing happens, which happens quite often.
Absolutely.
And placing your gratefulness on there. So try and think outside the box. Don't just think about, I'm grateful for my kids, my family, my work. Well, you can do, but I always try and think outside the box nowadays. That I'm grateful for, the events that I've experienced.
Yeah.
Just being to the festival. Really grateful that comes to the Isle of Wight. Not many places get a great big festival like that. Or perhaps being grateful for the place we live in, being in the south coast of England. One of the most safest places in the world to live. Just outside the box. You know what I mean? So gratitude journals, gratitude lists, thinking about gratitude, again, has that huge advantage on our well-being. In the same sense as strength lists do, you know, it can give you a bit of enthusiasm, bit of motivation, can start to lift confidence and self-esteem. And the biggest payoff, I think, is that we're getting this from ourselves. We're not getting it from other people. We're doing this for ourselves.
And yeah, when you were talking about that, I love the fact that, you know, your gratitude experiences are kind of a lot far developed than I have. You know, when you talked about the Isle of Wight Festival, you talked about the beautiful island, the South Coast. That is way outside the box, but that's the kind of stuff that you kind of, over a period of time, you start to kind of create,
develop it.
Yeah, and for me, when I started to actually put some of this, it created new experiences for me as well.
Yeah.
You know, and when we talked about how this can actually lower your anxiety and stuff like that, I started to get other experiences, and I was, you know, in the mindset then that I really actually enjoyed having these new experiences, and then they were positive, and that was kind of just reframed my mind almost subconsciously now. So those kind of experiences that happen, you get a good payback in every aspect.
We do, and we're doing it ourselves. That's what I said. So there's the journaling, you know, on gratification, strength lists, positive experiences. You know, it's going to be really helpful. And you could do one of these a day, a different one, just to mix it up a bit. All right, but you know, with journaling, it's hard when you're feeling particularly down, and you might be tempted to skip it. But it's about fighting that urge, you know. It's about the pushing through that urge, and you know, you've got to keep on focus that the only way to change is through action, and that can be considered as taking some action. You are going to feel better afterwards. I'm just looking at the time. We haven't got many minutes. I just want to touch on positive self-talk before we finish.
Yeah, that'd be great,
Neil. And I think we talk a lot about positive self-talk at Isopia. We've got workshops on it, and I think you know, it's critical if people are struggling, especially with confidence, self-esteem, lack of self-belief, self-worth. The way we talk to ourselves can be either truly devastating or truly, you know, can turn things around. You know, so we need to reframe the language we talk to ourselves. Language is immensely powerful, and reframing language is an immensely powerful tool. And I think there's some simple things that we can do, you know, and I think in certainly stressful situations, if we can link to the strengths we used in those challenging situations or negative situations, and reframe the language and highlight and understand those strengths and that we use, we're kind of changing our language towards ourselves. So, you know, reframing thoughts, reframing language, you can do things such as just stopping and breathing and telling yourself that I can do this. So like kind of the stop tool in the emotional regulation workshop. You guys probably all know about that. You can say things to say, you can say things such as, you know, this feeling is normal in this situation and it will pass. You know, you can say things like, well, this does feel bad. However, some feelings aren't facts. So you know what I mean? This feels bad, but it might not be facts. You know, as Neil was saying earlier on, it's like, what am I making it mean to myself?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And we do a bit of work around these kinds of things because we know the importance of it, isn't it? When we're talking about a lot of the thoughts and the feelings we have, when you start doing things like journals, a lot of that is actually not factual. It's how you've made it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You personalize it. Couple more things. You know, you can recognize that you can feel bad, but still choose to take the more healthier direction or more positive direction. You say that to yourself, you know, or you feel this way because of perhaps your past experiences, but just know that you know you're safe.
Yeah, you're not there now.
You're not there now. You know, absolutely. So the way that we reframe things to ourselves or talk to ourselves is immensely powerful for a positive and open mindset. Okay, I've just noticed we're on the half hour. Should we just wrap up quickly?
Yeah,
and
so
I'll leave you with it?
we'll just wrap up. Thank you for taking the time for listening to us. Down the bottom of the screen, you'll see our website. Please log on to that. There's lots of information on. We also have the public Facebook page, so please log on to that wherever you can. Get lots of content on there. We are now self-referral, so if you want some help, then please just contact us on the number below. So we'll leave you there. We do this every week. So next week on Friday, there'll be another subject matter and another live. So I hope to see you all there. And thank you very much for listening to both of us. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you for your time, guys. See you again.